All right, cool. We're ready
Let's
to
just
do it.
record
We're ready
and
to
go
record.
on.
All right,
And then
so
like we'll get back. Oh, actually, you shut the fuck up.
you just shut up for a
I'll
little
shut the
while.
fuck up. All right,
Let us
sorry.
introduce us to the show, and then we can go from there. All right.
All right.
All right.
Let us know when we're...
Okay, all right.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 2 of the X-stream podcast. We're running with that title right now. I'm Matuse Peace, your co-host.
And I'm Abubakr Mahmoud. Pleasure to be with y'all today.
Definitely. It's awesome to be back. And, we're still working things out. Now we have a great guest with us tonight that is going to kind of run through the banter with us while we discuss the news of the week, things that have kind of stood out for us that we want to talk about.
There's been some weird crap happening throughout the week, politically, internationally, just all sorts of stuff that makes you think, is this The Onion or is it real news?
Is this The Onion? What does that even mean?
The Onion is like this newspaper that like puts out fake news as a joke and then it ends up being true. Like they once had this article that like
Right.
Obama would give missiles to Iran to like make like a settlement so they would chill, and he did that. They were just like taking the piss, and it happened.
So then The Onion is fake news that comes out true?
It's parody, yeah. It's not
parody.
trying to be real
Okay.
news, yeah. It just ends up being.
So
real.
this isn't The Onion. This is the real. We want
as it gets. Doesn't get realer than this. Extreme.
I mean, that's the whole idea, to give them the real. So that's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
And then this week we have so much going on. But I think the first things first, let's bring on the Nav man. Let's introduce
Mr.
the Nav.
Hello.
So
That was a long ass intro.
I mean, we gotta we're introducing what's happening in life.
We could have just gone on without you. You could have just pretended you're not
you
in the
almost
room.
did. I thought you were going to.
I
I'm
mean,
talking about the
that's what I was
onion.
going
we were
for.
gonna go for another 10, 15 before we
You just
brought
had to
you
just
on.
like, I
But
want attention now.
but he's like,
So
come
it's
on,
a pleasure
dying.
to have you here. We're
Let's
very
introduce the
delighted.
man.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Let's introduce the man. Actually, why don't you introduce yourself? Because
Oh.
what were you saying when we were off?
I don't feel like Nav has much of a problem introducing himself.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
don't know if I should take that as a means or mark of my ego or super ego.
Please.
I feel like that's kind of insulting. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that.
Hey man,
Oh, they could-
condescending. All right. Whenever you're going downstairs, you're condescending.
You're
Anyway,
condescending con. Yeah.
yes, my name is Nav. That is short for Naveen, which is short for Naveen Krishnasamy, which is short for Naveen Krishnasamy, also known as Nav K. Samir, writer, editor, spoken word poet, and everything in between, really. So,
If there was any introduction, I mean, what an introduction. He had that typed up and ready on a piece of paper. That's what that felt like. So,
Okay.
it's typed into my brain.
My first question is,
Yes.
when did you first remember picking up paper and pen and starting
Paper
writing
and
shit?
pen, shit. Well, I would. Okay. I can actually pin this down to a few points in my primary school life. So the first time I picked up a pen was in year 4. This is to answer your question directly and literally, and I mean that in the most literary sense.
Yeah, you're not.
so
a
you never
writer
picked
at
up
all.
a pen before year 4?
Year 4 was the first time I picked up a pen, and that being said, I was the
think I got my
last,
pen license
the
pretty
last kid in my class to get a pen license in year 4 because my handwriting was never up to scratch. If you have a look at my year 4 cursive, which is when I
Yeah.
started writing,
Yeah.
like handwriting
Yeah.
or trying to look after it,
Yeah.
compare it to my handwriting today, it is exactly the same.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
It is like
Mine hasn't changed either.
yeah, it's
Through
crazy.
the day,
My
I
writing
learned to write
it's
cursive.
gotten worse.
Because back then, I thought it was really cool that I could do that as a 4th grader. But the thing is, I never improved from that point. I'm like, this is how you write. And now no one can read my writing.
But I felt like as time went by and the pen was used less and the computer or the laptop was used more, typing used more, my handwriting went to the shit.
It's an
Like, it just
atrophy of skills.
It's an
It's an
atrophy.
atrophy of skills.
What's atrophy
100%.
mean?
We're gonna get a
Atrophy
a
is
language
like-
lesson today.
All right, so yeah, that's another thing. I do like my vocab. I do really love words.
Ladies and gentlemen, pull out a notepad and a pen. You're gonna learn some great new words tonight.
Atrophy. My
I know all the
friends.
words. I know some great words.
Atrophy is essentially when things stop, or should I say, depreciate in quality out of not using them. So if you have an atrophy of skills in handwriting, it obviously makes sense. You're not using your handwriting
sex
skills,
life.
so it's
So there's an atrophy of language as well.
an atrophy of your mojo. That's actually funny. It's no. I mean, there's like anhedonia, for example. So this is a word. Anhedonia is a condition. It's a physical condition where you can't really feel anything, right?
Yeah.
But it's usually used with an implication of men who can't feel anything when they have sex.
What's the word for it?
Ah.
Anhedoniac. or anhedonia, and then someone who suffers from anhedonia is an anhedoniac.
Wow.
Okay.
What a
What do you mean
Think
by...
about it though, like hedon, so anhedon, so anhedonia. You won't feel or sense things. So.
Okay, so they can't feel in general, or they just can't feel the pleasure of sex?
That's the thing, yeah. So I mean, in different cases of anhedonia, you have some people who can't feel anything, like that guy in The World's Not Enough. Do you remember that James Bond film? The guy who just couldn't feel anything, played by Robert Carlyle.
I feel like I kind of do, but I'm not gonna say I definitely do.
So there's different
I
scales
don't think
of
it matters,
anhedonia.
right?
But there is sexual anhedonia
Alright.
for men, which is basically that they don't feel a thing
So how
when
can
they're
they become
engaged in
erect
coitus.
if they don't feel
You
it?
can become erect because that's just a blood
Can they
reaction.
climax?
That's a
Do
reaction
they
to the blood.
ejaculate?
But you mean they don't feel anything emotionally or physically, like tangible?
Oh, see,
Yeah,
like
I'm an
metaphysical
anhedonia
anhedonia is something else. That's
Yeah.
right. But I think with these guys, it's yeah, like obviously you can still get your erection. It's still blood pumping through the muscles,
Right.
making it harder.
Wow.
But
What conversation?
That's going to be the name of my band.
wasn't the
Metaphysical
question?
anhedonia.
Wasn't no metaphysical like emotional anhedonia?
Yeah.
It's like this is so funny because the question you asked me was like what first brought me to bring pen to paper, and I started with my pen license in year 4,
And then you ended up with anhedonia.
anhedonia. But I think the first time I really did write something that was considered substantive would have been substantial.
It's a word.
It works. Substantive is just a nicer way of saying it, I think. It sounds better in this context. I don't know why. Maybe the echo and reverb, but substantive makes more
Reverb.
sense. It's substantial. Anyway, so I was in year 4. I wrote like this 18-page report on my favorite dinosaur, which is called
Which one was your favorite dinosaur? 'Cause I love
Deinonychus. Now, but let me tell you something about Deinonychus, right?
Deinonychus was your favorite
hell is
dinosaur.
Deinonychus?
Deinonychus, it's the
The
largest
least dinosaur-sounding dinosaur.
It's basically it's in the late Cretaceous. It's like the last period of apex predators,
Oh, yeah, I know
and
what
then
that is.
you've got like it's the largest of the raptors. It's the smartest
Oh,
of
it's
the
like a
raptors.
velociraptor.
But no. So this is the thing. See, Steven Spielberg, you see velociraptors in
They're faking
Jurassic
that.
Park.
He's wrong.
Yeah, so
they're smaller than
velociraptors
that with
didn't look
feathers.
anything exactly.
Yeah,
They
I
were
mean,
one-
trust. I'm a velociraptor
So-
fan.
Spielberg
So.
is a
What he
liar.
ended up
Damn.
using instead of Velociraptor was the Deinonychus. That's what a Deinonychus would have looked like. But because he was like, Americans can't pronounce a word like Deinonychus, so he just named them Velociraptors.
So that's what a
That's
Deinonychus
easy to
looks
That's what a
like.
Deinonychus looks like.
Deinonychus. That's my new
They're-
favorite dinosaur, bro. Because
It's in Jurassic World, like Chris Pratt, he's training
Haven't
the.
seen it too many
sorry, I keep
Mercedes
knocking that.
plugs.
He's training the Velociraptors, so to speak, but they're really Deinonychus, right?
yeah, but
So
do they make reference that it's a Deinonychus in there?
They don't. Not in the.
They stick with the lie,
They
right?
stick with the lie. They
Yeah,
stick with the
yeah.
lie. Spielberg sticks with the lie.
Deinonychus. I mean, you gotta
Classic.
run with it and make it real. You just gotta. What was Hitler saying? Like just make the lie simple.
Hitler had
Say it
many
as many times as you.
We just went from
Which
Spielberg
one was your
to
favorite
Hitler.
to make
Hitler
it
saying?
true.
Spielberg.
Well,
to
I'm
Hitler.
just saying because like even a lie said enough can become or sound truthful.
The truth. Yeah,
So,
true.
But that was
velociraptors
the
are-
lie make-
report.
can make its
That was a
way.
report I wrote.
So you
Back
wrote
to
a
that
report
question
about the Deinonychus.
about Deinonychus. But then the second time when I really got into storytelling, and Bakri, I'm sorry if I'm boring you, but it was, he's like, no, he's not
Bakri's like,
denying it.
I wish I never said this question. Why?
I have one more question though.
Wait.
I
Year
feel
five.
like-
Year five.
Yeah,
I
year
wrote a
five.
book,
All right.
a small book in year 5. It was about
You wrote
35
a small
pages.
book?
It was 35
page-
pages. It
How
was
big were
called
these pages?
like A4. But it was about it was called The Invasion, and it's about this planet that sort of like it's free floating in the universe. It doesn't have a sun, and it generates heat by its overconductive core, which is like
You
quite
were
large.
in year 4.
This
Yeah.
is year 5.
So you
And
were
then
9,
this thing-
10. You were 10.
I was 10.
Yeah, we're 10.
And this thing falls
Wow.
into our orbit,
Yeah.
right? And it basically, these aliens come on and they invade us, right? So it's like this whole story about like how my dad's like a pilot in the UNSMC or whatever it was, and like how I accidentally fall on one of the ships and I get taken to their planet and like I meet like with their king and shit like that. It was like this 33-page book called The Invasion, and that was my year 5. That was the first time
How does it end?
I wrote. How does it end? We end. Okay, so do you really want me to get into it? It's pretty complicated. I'll
No.
just quickly tell. I'll quickly
If you
tell-
say it's complicated, no.
I'll quickly tell you. PlayStation 1, there was a game called Operation Raystorm, right?
Right.
A very underrated game. Not many people knew about it. You basically played these tiny little like airships at the bottom of the screen, and you had to shoot. It was kind of like Space
What was the game
Invaders.
called?
Yeah.
Operation Raystorm.
Guys, if you know that game, Operation
Kind of like Space
Rainstorm,
Invaders. Space Invaders on PS1.
It's like Space
online
Invaders,
viewers.
PS1, taking the next level, right?
Yeah.
I just
So-
want to know how many people know that game exists. That's all.
It was one of my
It
favorite
exists.
games. It was one of the first games that you could use all 4 people on the PS1.
Right.
You know, you
Wow.
could get the extension
That
for
is
the extra
impressive.
controllers.
That is a feat.
That was amazing.
In that
right?
era, to have 4
In that-
people playing at once.
Right. Let's stick to the. All right. So there's
And the
this
story,
game.
so that's
So
what
there's the
happens, and
game.
it's influenced. The ending of this is influenced by that because I took the names like Raystorm and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And what happens is, so you have like the Raystorm department of like the Interstellar Space Unit, which basically send these ships to like neighboring countries, and they've got like sort of ports all over the world, right? And all of them are armed with this special protective. It's not a weapon, it's like this protective shield. And basically they do like a countdown. If people like sort of flick the arm button and say, all right, it's ready to go, everyone at like all those sort of ports of call around the world, they have to push this button simultaneously. And it creates like this nano protection cloud around the Earth so things can't penetrate it. So what ends up happening is we end up setting off like the core of the floating planet. The whole thing explodes with like a bunch of nuclear weapons. And then as we come back, like we're retreating to our orbit, obviously you got like all the asteroids and shit. And all
Obviously.
coming out.
I mean, at
right?
year
It's
5,
like, it's like
obviously, you have all
fun.
that.
And so they managed to push the button like at exactly the right time. I'd just seen Armageddon as well, you know. It was like
Yeah.
a
I was
million
gonna say,
time.
I mean, I
we
like
watching
watching
and
every
they
day
they like
Armageddon and
they
all
like
that.
protect the entire world, and it's like fireworks. That's
I'd
how
buy
ends.
it. I'd read it. I probably wouldn't like create a culture out of it and like charge people to be a part of something and then call it a church. But otherwise, I'm really into it.
Cool. So that was the first time I really wrote like something creative from the top of my head.
Okay, I'm not sure if I should ask my next question. But
What is your next? Hold on, before you say it, what is it? Say it to me, and then I'll decide whether we're gonna hit it with this.
How am I
You
gonna
can
do
just
that,
whisper
though?
on the
Just say it. He
microphone
doesn't
and
have to
pretend that I
answer it.
can't hear it.
okay, I was just gonna ask what was the first poem you wrote.
Oh.
I think that's worthwhile because the most he can say is give us a 1,000-word description of how it went about, and then he's pulling it out. He has
Are
it.
you actually
If
lying?
you if you
I
have
don't-
it,
First poem you wrote.
if you have it, then you have
no,
to
no,
share
no,
it with
no.
us.
No. The first poem I wrote was in year 10. Year 11.
Yeah.
Year 11. I was studying advanced English.
Uh-huh.
No, sorry. It was year 10. My bad,
Yeah.
because I had the same teacher from year 10 to year 12.
Yeah.
Awesome teacher, Mrs. Isabella Hallinan from Marion College, Kenters. Shout out.
Shout out.
She's amazing. She actually changed my world. Like I was like
I know the
maths and
feels.
science, like a typical
English
Indian
teachers
kid.
are meant to change the
Exactly,
world.
right? Like a typical Indian kid who was sitting up the front,
Yeah.
didn't give a shit about English. Why do I need to learn English? I already speak English.
And then
she
someone paid some
completely
attention to you and gave you
that's
some
it.
love
She
and
freaking
nourishment for your creativity.
just showed me how to like shift the lens and see the world in a different way, and completely changed my life. So Miss Isabella Hallinan. Anyway, so it was the first poem, and I just broken up with my first ever girlfriend. I
Sweet
think
teen.
from like year 10. She was my second actually. She was my second girlfriend.
I was definitely right.
Just broken up with her, and and this was the shit thing because there was this other guy who was there who really liked her, and her and I, we liked each other, and wait, and they were good friends, and she started going out with me, broke up, and then they got together, and they were together for like the next 4 years. So I was like, what? So I felt like shit, right? Because we were all in the same classes anyway. So the first poem I wrote was about that, and it was about time. And how time plays with your head,
Right.
like how it goes slower in times of grief, and how it goes faster when you're happier. But when it becomes, but you can't measure time with the heart. Like that's the whole sort of thing. Your heart sort of stops in time, whereas everything goes faster and slower around you.
That's dope.
Yeah, with heartbreak. So that was like the first poem I wrote, and that was year 11.
Wow.
I don't have a copy of it.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
have a
but I
copy of
mean that's a great place to start.
I
think,
wrote a poem in the
right.
HSC, like.
Oh, really?
Like in not the HSC in the half yearlies, like when
Oh,
you could
okay.
do creative writing.
Yeah.
You know, they give you images and stuff, and you
Yeah.
write it. I just wrote like a 4-page poem.
Oh man, I probably
Instead.
should.
You're allowed to do that. You're right.
Cool.
I didn't know if I was allowed to. I just did it.
I had a Tumblr
No,
account.
you can't
though.
do it. Yeah.
You can. That's
I was
awesome.
like, I used to write poetry on Tumblr when I was in high school.
Oh yeah, I had DeviantArt back then.
Oh no, there's this website, right? Everyone should get on this website. It's called allpoetry.com. You go in there and you write poetry, and people have to give you feedback
Oh.
and they have to comment to get points, and you have to read theirs and comment on their poetry. So you just always get mad feedback,
That's dope.
and it makes you write more. It's amazing. People like
Feedback-
message you like their feelings and stuff.
I don't know. Feedback is good, but I don't like the gamification of art. I don't want it to have to be
Art
in a
is a game.
platform.
It's a game of love.
But I hate it to be where it's on a platform where it's literally written for validation.
Right.
Me personally, like that's
Yeah,
why I'm not
yeah,
a
of
big
course.
fan of slams. Like I prefer poetry
Yeah,
exhibitions or open mics,
Yeah.
and I usually don't like engaging in slams for that fact. Like I used to
'Cause they
definitely
rate it?
before, because of the rating. And
I don't like the rating.
I'll tell you why that's a big issue.
Yeah.
Like I've mentored a lot of kids in writing and poetry, and so many kids, especially after going to some of the big slams in Sydney, you know, if they've gone a couple of times, they'll come and they say, "Oh, you know, when I wrote this, I really really liked it, but when I performed it, I got like a 7.5. But when I wrote this one, when I wrote it like this, it was a bit angrier, a bit louder. You know, I got like a 9.5." And then they change the way they want to express themselves. I'm like, poetry is about being raw. Like you should not have to change the way you want to express yourself. That's the beauty of poetry. You have
Be
the freedom
yourself,
to do that.
manifest who
Do you know
are.
what I mean?
Well, I
Your
mean,
literature.
that's the thing about creativity. It's like it's hard to kind of box it in. It's not mathematics. So to box it in and say that there's one way, well, that there is like what sounds good or this is the best way to do something, especially when it comes to how you express yourself, is a real limitation. That I agree with you. Like I love poetry slams and I love seeing people get up and perform, but I do not like the part where they get
Yeah.
because a lot of times you're leaving it up to an audience who is temperamental.
Of course.
And based on how they feel even,
100%.
they're just going to give a rating.
Plato's criticism on democracy. Exactly.
You
Before we
know?
get into that, did you, question for both of y'all, did you choose your art form or did your art form choose you?
Well, I believe, like, I have multiple art forms that I take on board, but for a very long time, I stuck with one as the main, which was music. And I felt like that was what I was, like, what I was chosen or what I chose to do, but that was my focus. And that's where I saw my potential. Now, the interesting thing about that is as I grew up and I began to expand what I allowed myself to see potential in, I realized I had a lot more potential in a lot of things. And it isn't that I was, how I approached music made it significant because it was music. Rather, it was I had something significant about the way my brain worked and how I approach different creative outlets using that same brain like way of thinking, way of approaching is going to create something new. Yeah. So the same reason I'm talented in creating music and freestyling is the same reason I'm talented in painting and in drawing and in acting. Do you see? I see them all. So there's potential in everything. If you're a creative person, then you're going to have potential in all forms.
So it's the potential of growth that
well,
allows
I mean,
you to...
I mean, most people. Here's the thing: most people, when they're growing up, when they're very young, they're told what they have potential in. You see a kid play a good sport, and then a parent or somebody says, you know, you're good at this. Yeah. So you take on board what you're being told that you have potential in, and then you delve into it. And because you naturally do have potential in that, you think that's the only place you have potential in because that's what's being recognized. But you don't know what else you have potential in, and you don't know what else you should explore. Yeah. So I've spent the previous 3 or 4 years really trying to just explore that, and that's the reason why, like the evening with Matuse that I have August 15th, I'm going to plug it. August 15th.
Everyone's doing cool
August
things.
15th, evening with Matuse is going to be like a launch of my art, which is called the Surreality exhibit. So it's paintings and drawings, as well as two short films that I did with Almayahi, who was our guest the previous week, as well as a book that I'm like releasing called The Traveling Stranger. So there's multiple things happening in that one evening. And the reason why I wanted to do them all on the one evening, and I might actually release a mixtape, The Outcome X, on that same night. Yeah. And the reason I wanted to do all of them on the same night is because it's like I want to express that, look, one person who has a talent or has potential can have potential and talent in so many things, and bring them all out, show them all. Yeah. We're not just
like
one thing.
Like you see me do this, you see me do that, but like you realize I can do it all.
Yeah, and not just that I can, but that you can.
Yeah,
that,
if I can, then you can.
Yeah, like I'm just an example. This is just an example of what a human being can do.
Yeah.
And every human being has so much potential that is untapped. Yeah. And so showing them that I'm doing all of this stuff is showing the untapped potential that I had and that I tapped into. Know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. And I guess for me, like, you know, did the art choose me or did I choose the art? So art choose me. I actually like totally agree with what you're saying, Matuse. It's like creative people will naturally fall within the creative spectrum, and that spectrum is so like multifaceted with so many different wavelengths, you know, and that works so well. So I found myself quite engaged in sort of like the creative side to things from a very young age. But especially when I was young, going through my formative years, like it wasn't encouraged in the slightest, obviously.
Yeah, right.
From obviously my parents, it was like
they
you know,
wanted
the
you to
maths,
be a doctor.
the sciences. I knew from a young age I
never
wasn't going to be a
understood that.
doctor.
I tell you what that is. Sorry to cut you off now, but
That's right.
can you remember what you're about to say?
I can
Because it's just so
remember, yeah,
important. I realized this when I was a young man, like a really young kid. But what's so interesting is we grew up in households where it's like become a doctor or a lawyer or something with like that's prestigious or seen as prestigious by the old school, and
Get rich.
in a way for you to be wealthy and stable, right? And so it's so interesting is because they came from the struggle. And when I was young, I was like maybe like 9 and 10, and I was already fed that kind of understanding, which is cool. A family friend, like an older man, like he was a family friend. He was driving me somewhere, and he says to me, he goes, "So what are you into, you know?" And I'm like, this and that. He's like, "What kind of sport?" I'm like, "I play a bit of football." He's like, "You want to do that for a career?" And I looked at this man like, "You have to be crazy. Like you're a grown, like I'm young, right? So I'm looking, I'm like, you're an adult, and you're saying to me that's a career? That's ludicrous. Like, how could you say that's like, not that it's a negative thing to say, but I had never heard it up to that
How
point.
do you think your life would have turned out?
He was a doctor.
Otherwise,
But that's
people
what I'm
had- yeah,
saying,
if
because
more
he was a
people liked the
doctor.
doctor.
No, but that's the thing, because he's a doctor,
Yeah.
he's gonna be saying something different to his children because he's not in
so
a
you think
struggle.
to his own children who'd be saying.
You understand what I'm saying? But the
Yeah.
struggle
And
begets
that's-
that. They don't
of
want you to
course.
taste that struggle.
And that's the thing, like you get like an older generation who sometimes like berate us for being like, you guys don't work hard enough, you're lazy. It's like, we're
Yeah.
working hard. It's just a different kind of
It's
hard.
a different
But
hard,
for
yeah.
them, it's like, you don't work hard enough, you take life too easily, and you can just always go back. It's like, but you guys sacrifice so much. Like for them, life is sacrifice. They're like, why don't you sacrifice enough? It's like, you guys sacrificed everything you had so we could have the lives you wanted.
Yeah.
And now that I'm living that life, you're telling me I need to be more like what you did. And I'm just like,
That's so
do you
funny.
see the irony here, guys?
Yeah,
like,
it's so
do you see
ironic.
it? I mean, like, always be thankful to God. Always be thankful to your parents more than anything, right?
Yeah,
They
massive.
are your closest things to God on this planet.
Yeah.
They created you, right? So you always be thankful, but at the same time, I mean, we are the transitional generation. We are the generation on the back of a lot of bad decisions of previous generations. We're the
Right.
transitional generation. We're the age of consequence. This is the age that we live in. This
The
is
age of
the
consequence.
millennial condition.
That's what we're gonna call this episode. The age of consequence.
age of consequence. And so we're in this transition.
So deep.
Whether
I
it
thought
be
we were
like
calling it the Anomaly thing.
Anhedonia. See,
Maybe
we've
we'll
learned
call
so
it
many
that.
things
The
already,
age
haven't
of
we?
Anhedonia.
We've learned so many things already. But in this age of consequence, and this is actually a book I'm writing about.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm writing a
Everyone-
book about
yeah,
this.
right.
And I just feel with this age
Where's
of
your book,
consequence.
Bucky?
Yeah, I know. I'm just starting to write poetry.
I need to tell you,
Go ahead.
as in like how it sort of works. It's this idea of an age of consequence, not only like within ourselves, but also in the physical planet. We've been so relentless in our pursuit for consumption-like environments and a consumption-like mentality that we've lost responsibility for the planet itself. Itself. Like, look at the planet, climate change, all this. This is all on the back of reckless decisions that
Yeah.
have been made since the Industrial Revolution. And and then I sit here and I look, okay, how can we compare that to a modern phenomenon in terms of recklessness, and not looking forward or projecting into the future as to what would be better for our next generations? And I look at the internet as a perfect example.
How so?
So 1995, Tim Berners-Lee made the most incredible decision, I guess you could say, in technological advancement in the history of mankind by making the internet publicly accessible, right? Since then, we have seen an unprecedented amount of technological...
I know. I get a lot of likes on Instagram.
I'm talking about like technology itself has exploded, right?
Hugely.
Since then, every year things are getting better. Like the computer year now is 2 months now is an average computer year in terms of development. Like it's crazy, right? And so we have this understanding that with the internet, are we being just as reckless as our forefathers were with the planet? Like, we're already seeing the effects. The internet's only been around for like 22 years. We're already seeing things like
So,
serious...
are we being
wait.
reckless with the internet or the
No,
environment? because of
like
the
let me
internet?
tell you, it influences it, right? We're seeing the way that the internet's already affecting our psyche over a 22-year period. We're seeing things like porn addiction. We're seeing things like post-validation extremism. We're looking at people who have deep insecurities, create their own avatars, project what they want to be seen as, all right, and get the validation they want, whether
Do
it's
you
good or
think
bad.
those extreme needs for validation always existed? and they
I think they
found
always
a hub,
existed
or
in
is
some
it being
ways,
festered,
but
has it
now
been
it's being
harvested?
fested into the mainstream, right?
As in it's becoming acceptable.
Well, with the internet, you have a tool to be as
Vain.
validation and vein based as you like,
Yeah, right.
and we're seeing the effects of it with cyberbullying. We're seeing the effects with like kids committing suicide, high suicide rates. This idea of like information to easily
being
accessed.
Instagram famous.
Instagram famous.
The
Like,
fact
what the
that you
hell
can
is
be
that?
internet
What does
famous,
that mean
yeah,
exactly?
yeah, right.
And what I'm saying is, so this is the effects after 20 years. Have we even sat there and thought about what'll be? What kind of psychological things would affect our children and our children's children, say like when the internet's 50 or 100 years old?
Yeah.
Do you think when people first started using like natural resources like, fossil fuels, do you think they were thinking like or projecting 50, 60, 70, or 200 years into the future?
No, right.
No, but
so you're saying what we're doing with the internet
is what we've done to the world.
So is the future looking hurtful or
Not at all, not in the
Oh, yeah,
slightest.
I didn't
and
think
and
so.
what we have, obviously, and what we have is people.
Did
who
you
are
say
living-
hopeful?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
I was
not.
saying in my book, no, not at
Yeah,
all.
yeah, it's
And what we
definitely-
have is basically a person who realizes this idea that we're so vain that he goes beyond questioning what people think of him, but he goes about questioning what the extraterrestrial life may think about humans in general.
Right.
Like it drives him insane, and that's the whole sort of story. Bakari's really bored.
No, I just
No, I think
like
you
we
hit
are.
a
We,
nerve.
yeah, it's just okay. Yeah, the president's a dimwit, but so are we. We allowed him to become president.
Well, not we. I mean, we
I
had
know,
no
but
part
like
of
the
it.
rest of the world and all of us being part of it, like aren't like of some higher moral ground because we're not the ones with these views. We're just, like.
No,
you
I
know?
agree with you. People that are not innocent, but there's also a very big difference with how much blood is on people's hands. And
Yeah,
if you're
there's
gonna
blood
go
on
for
all of our hands.
no,
though.
no. You're right. You are right in saying that. But what I'm saying is there's some people. The average person has blood on their hands for
Yeah.
their contribution
Yeah.
to the system.
Uh-huh.
But the system in and of itself was built there intentionally by some people. Now they don't have just blood on their hands; they have blood all over them.
Yeah.
And before you can cleanse the blood on the hands, you got to get the ones with the blood everywhere, because they're the ones that are constantly
Cut 'em off at the
like.
head.
I mean, well, I mean, the idea is like people. First thing, yeah, I agree. People
not
do
ex-
need to look at the situation, and be like, yeah, we got to change for the better. And there's an individual responsibility, and even the smallest stuff. Because you're right, the way that the world is going, if we stay going down this track steadily, then it's like complete destruction. And I've taught lessons where I've brought this to students and I've explained it to students and said that this is the way the world is going. You guys got to change.
100%.
And you know what they say to me? Yeah, but why is it our fault? It's not our fault. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, you guys gave it to us. And I'm like, you're very right about that. But it's also not my fault. But that's the whole point of it. It's no one's fault.
It's no one's
It's
fault.
everyone's fault. Like, I'm letting you know, because the blame isn't on you. Is that if you're young and you know about it young, then there's a chance that you can change habits. That if there's enough people changing habits and enough people actually trying to
Like
do
you're
something.
born with rights and responsibilities, which is like the most mundane thing you can tell a child because that's what adulthood is.
Well, I mean, responsibilities, yeah, is a very big one that doesn't get
Responsibility
expressed.
and accountability. Yeah.
Yeah.
I teach my U12 students the same things as well. Like you were saying, like we talk about the world. Reading Aldous Huxley's Brave New World,
Yeah.
all right, which is just you
How could
guys
it be
have
any
read that.
more relevant than
Exactly,
now?
right.
Yeah.
And then reading that with a Year 12 kid, and then him asking me afterwards, when I tell him, it's like, what do you think about that book? Do you think it represents reality today? And he goes, no. I'm like, why? He goes, because no one does that stuff. No one, creates humans and what humans think about themselves out of nothing. And I'm just like, are you serious?
Wow.
But this is the other thing I'm saying. There's the next level where people are just completely happily ignorant. I broke it down with him for a lesson and a half, and he was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah.
He's like, "Wow, this book is really like relevant." I'm like, "Yes." It's like, but didn't he write it like 60 years ago? I'm like, "That's
Yes.
the problem."
Yes. Yes. And so many people like him were like, yeah, nothing going on.
Did you see 1984, the play, just recently? So everyone's read the book,
No,
right?
I've read the
Yeah.
book, yeah.
Yeah, I read the book again recently from a Year
I
12
haven't read
students.
the whole thing.
Me neither. I haven't even
so many
read the
people have
ending.
said that.
That they
I'm
haven't read
so
the whole
shocked.
thing.
It's just
No,
such
it's
a-
not.
No, so
It's
many
not a
people I
bad
talk
book.
to.
It's a great book.
It's
But
just
like,
not a very finishable book. It doesn't make you want to pick it up. Like it's just
It's
like
true.
so
It's
I was.
miserable.
very-
If you want to
it didn't
go and
keep
feel
me.
sad, pick it up.
I loved it.
I mean,
I know it's great.
Brave New World, I preferred more, but maybe
Brave
because
New
I had
World
to read
it's
it.
also a little more like it's more entertaining, like Brave New World.
I really like 1984. It's just I had so many things to be reading, and so for me to really buy to pick that up.
I'm sorry, George Orwell. I love you, but I never quite read your book.
Well, 1984.
But nonetheless, it was prolific. It was powerful.
Of course, that and Animal Farm were amazing. But the play just recently it came to Sydney. Sydney Theatre Company did 1984, and I watched it last week. It was phenomenal.
They did a good job.
It is phenomenal. Yeah. It is absolutely excellent. I know it's still in Sydney for like another week and a half, but there are literally no seats left. Wow. But if you guys can chase it in Melbourne,
kind of like the Arsenal game.
We'll get to that. But if you can catch it in Melbourne or wherever, make sure you go 1984. It is brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant. And read the book before, so just in case.
But it's in Melbourne now.
I don't know. I think they're going to Melbourne or Perth. I don't know where they're going.
How much were the tickets?
I got them for about $75, $80.
You see, wow. I'm from a place where the idea of going to the theater and spending that much money is insanity. Now, I'm not saying I agree with that. But being somebody who got into acting and then I got into film and I never even thought about theater and then I fell into theater and then like most of the stuff I've done has been theater.
Yeah. And
so it's weird just like being a part of the theater world and thinking, wow, all of this stuff was weird to me when I was growing up. This was out of reach, huh?
Did you get paid?
Well, of course.
Well, then why shouldn't we pay to see the theater?
No, you're getting me twisted. I'm not saying there's something wrong with that. I'm saying you grow up and you don't really get like that. You're not exposed to that kind of a thing because it seems like a lot of money. Yeah. But I mean, when you actually see these amazing theater shows that are 75, 85, 90, they're worth like the money you spend. Well, they're awesome. I mean, it'd
Love
be great
Never Dies was pretty shit. I'm sorry. Like the sequel to Phantom of the Opera was so bad.
Oh, I never saw it.
But Phantom of the Opera was amazing. That was worth every dollar. But 1984, $75, $80, fantastic. Well worth every cent.
All right.
It was incredible.
I'll take your word for it. I would like to go. That'll be something.
Anyone want to take me? Anyone going to spend $75 if they want to spend on a ticket? I'm a good date. Yeah. I'm just saying.
I'll take you, bro. This is $74.95 too much for me.
It's good. It's worth it for people who can go. I take you, boys. I take you guys.
Right. So we went on the greatest of all tangents, but I'm gonna bring it right back.
Yeah. What's your favorite?
To what?
Your favorite poem? That was the last.
It was the first poem. What was your first poem?
No, it wasn't. What was your first poem? And then it was something else. Because we already spoke about your first poem.
Yeah. It was, is the art right you or do you write the art?
That's right. And yeah, I was saying how I agreed with you, Matuse. And when I was young as well, I was engaged in so many different things that were just completely discouraged, right? Yeah. Given like our background and everything, Indian background, typical.
That's where it was. In the
conversation. But I from a very young age, like I used to draw a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying if I was great at anything, but I just used to do it all the time. I had like a friend in year 2, year 3, year 4. We used to do like shitty little comics together. I used to love drawing. Even when I got to about year 7, year 8, I used to love doing drawing. But then, I got focused on things like maths and science, and then all that was encouraged. Art was discouraged. Like, you need to get marks in this and everything. Yeah. Typical sort of like, immigrant Indian boys experience sort of thing, or parents of immigrants.
So, like, when sorry to cut you off again, but I kind of, because you talk about, like, you did all these comics with your friend and all, which sounds great, but that doesn't really paint a picture in my mind. Like, were you, like, in the zone and fully into what you were doing? And what did you do? Like, what did you create? What was the task? Like, give me more detail.
Well, that's what it is. It's exactly what Matuse was saying.
Yeah.
It's that you don't necessarily have a direction initially, but you find yourself engaging in so many parts of the spectrum. So for me, it was like writing, and then it was playing drums. So I played percussion for like 8 years as a drum kit. I was in a garage band for a couple of years, and then from there it was even just with a few mates.
Could you imagine him in the band? What did you play?
I was a drummer and a singer,
yeah. Sure.
And then I got into acting, and I fell in love.
Fall Out Boy?
I fell in love. No, okay. I fell in love with Lenny Kravitz. I fell in love with writing, like I said, with my year 10 teacher and everything, and that kind of changed so many things. And then so it was like combining writing and theater playing because I acted in a lot of plays.
Okay, the premise of my question of the art right you
and I'm about to get to that, but if you give me a second.
Okay.
So essentially, exactly as Matuse said, you find yourself in an art form that becomes most convenient. And for me, because I loved drama, because I loved getting on stage and theater, but also because I loved writing, I was like, how can I bring these together in some form of a culmination that still works with me wanting to have a professional life, still works with me wanting to engage in all these other interests that I have, but still be able to give myself a creative outlet or as means of expression.
And what was that teaching?
Poetry.
It was poetry.
It was poetry and spoken word poetry. It's combining them
It
together.
is, definitely.
And then from there, so many opportunities open up in terms of writing, editing, more poetry, and teaching. Now I teach year 12 kids. And I was been mentoring kids before and writing as well.
Yeah.
So, and I'm a youth worker and an entrepreneur. And even my entrepreneur, the startup that I had, was also to do with editing. Editing. Online editing.
Wow.
So
What program do you use? Premiere Pro?
when
When you're editing.
I'm editing,
Yeah.
no, not video editing, my friend.
Like
No, he means
text.
editing like actual.
As in
like,
like writing,
like
like as in
editing.
words, like
Yeah,
give me
like
your
the
book you want to
traditional
publish, I'll
edit.
edit to.
the real
Yeah.
deal.
this is a
edit.
style guide.
But I did stuff on radio as well for a while. What did I use that? Adobe. What's the one for radio?
Adobe Audition.
That's it. Audition. I loved that. I made a few
Yeah.
documentaries for radio. It was mad fun.
So
So I always had some sort of creative outlet, and it usually, as I got older, was to do with words. So
Okay.
did it kind of choose me? I think it was just like a summation of everything that was happening in my life,
Yeah.
and how it sort of
Yeah, because I just
culminated.
wanted to know how circumstantial it was. Because like a lot of people speak about rap. Rap is not necessarily an art that you would choose. Sometimes you just grow up in art, and rap is in your life. Everyone around you listens to
nurturing
rap.
in
Rap is
nature, yeah.
what it
nurture
is.
nature,
Yeah, so I just kind of to figure out like, were you kind of nurtured in a way where like, here are all the different art forms which do you want to engage in? Like, oh yeah, I like this, I like that. Or was it like, no, you don't do art, but this was like your way out? So for me, writing was my way out. Like I didn't show anyone that I was writing when I first started writing. I remember my brother seeing me writing and laughing at me. He was like, what are you doing?
Yeah, yeah.
But I just like wanted to write. It was my own little world. So it was like my own escape. It was my reading and writing were my first two. Like
reading especially.
reading. It's like, wow, I'm in another world. I'm not in this
100%.
world anymore.
Goosebumps.
100%.
Yeah.
I was big on the Goosebumps
Animals,
book.
animals, dude. Oh,
Animals?
animals.
I was
Could you tell
so
by my
heavy.
invasion story?
Yeah, true.
I read
Yeah,
both of
fine.
those actually.
Goosebumps
Yeah.
I read for a bit,
And
but I
Del
used to
Toro
get
Quest.
freaked.
Del Toro, I love Del Toro Quest.
Del Toro Quest with the yeah, that
the
was
pearls.
also by K.A. Applegate.
Yeah,
She also wrote Animals.
Ah,
She finished Animals,
Really?
and I think she went to Del Toro
very
first.
different.
Wait, was it? Maybe I'm
They're
getting them
very
mixed
different
up.
shows.
Maybe I'm getting mixed up.
Yeah.
I remember Red Bull. Do you remember that with like the little animals? Like
No,
the
I don't
credits
remember
and
that.
stuff?
No.
It was like Game of Thrones, but for like fluffy little creatures.
Wow. Wow, I'm trying to imagine Game of Thrones with like a PG version of Game of Thrones.
Or like, yeah.
like a G, like a C, a children's version of
Have you
Game
read
of
the
Thrones.
Game of Thrones books?
No, I've watched the show.
I smashed them in a month. I was so I
All
watched
of
the
them?
first season
Yeah.
of the show,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh man, now I'm hooked. What am I gonna do for another year?
Yeah.
So I was like, screw it, the books are out, right?
Yeah.
So like I got
Wow,
all those 5
bothered.
books,
Yeah.
and I smashed them in a month. Like I was at uni, and just any
Couldn't do
moment
it,
I
man.
had,
Yeah.
I'd
I
smash
just
them all.
love reading nonfiction. So whenever I start reading anything, it just becomes just a nonfiction thing. I'm just like addicted to. Just,
What are some of your favorite nonfiction books?
Well, I mean, I read everything. I don't just read books. Like I read a lot of research articles,
Yeah.
a lot of reports.
Okay. But like sometimes you get a good book that's just like not only full knowledge, but it's easy. Like it's really nice to consume. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just written well.
A lot of the books I read are like biographies.
Yeah. Yes.
Spiritual. Well, I like to specifically read biographies of spiritual guides.
Okay.
But biographies in general are very interesting because I think every human being has such a crazy story to tell. Their whole life is a story to tell, and with the right words and the right editing, the right grammar, and the right sequence of events. So just somebody who can actually write very well.
Yeah.
Any story can be a bestseller.
My favorite autobiography has to be Malcolm X.
I've heard a lot of good about that.
Amazing book.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good about that.
I remember
book.
walking to school, reading that book, and we had like reading time in the morning, and then we had to like read something so they can like make our brains work. And I'd go in reading a book. I was the only person in my class, and I for probably 2 or 3 years who like read books,
Mhm.
right? And I go in, they're like, no, like you have to read the readings, and the readings are just some random thing from nowhere that means nothing. And like you're just gonna forget it. It's absolutely pointless. And I'm just trying to read this book.
Why wouldn't they let you just
They wouldn't
read
let
the
me
book?
read the book. I'm like, I'm gonna read when you don't want me to read. Like, shouldn't you just be happy that I'm reading?
Yeah,
None of
yeah.
these kids want to read. Like,
Technicalities, man.
really, all of us should be
God.
walking in with books. Like, it's
100%.
That's the whole thing about you know.
It's like conform,
just
don't
yeah,
learn, conform. That's
Yeah,
what's more
yeah.
important.
Just following orders.
Yeah.
Is conformity is not the answer. You know, being anarchy isn't the opposite of isn't the other choice to conformity. Like, you know, abiding by rules and regulations and laws that are sensical
Yeah.
and that are like compassionate and empathetic, sure. But technical for technical sake is just it's an abuse of power.
Yeah, just
That's
as
what I look
something
at
is
it like.
the
It's
law
an
doesn't
abuse
make
of
it
power.
right.
Yeah, slavery was lawful.
Yeah.
Chattel slavery was lawful. It doesn't make it right. So it's like, I always find that interesting. This whole idea of I'm just doing my job and that being a sufficient excuse. Soldiers who like kill people, and I mean kill, not collateral, that kill people, and not opposing like soldiers, people. And I'm just doing my job is the justification. And then terms like collateral damage, a justification. Trust, if you go to somebody who has a family member who was quote unquote collateral damage, they're not going to be cool with that term. Like that, they're not mean, it's fine that my son died. I know it's collateral damage, right? It's part of the whole thing. You didn't mean to do it, though you knew how many people were going to die. Like you had a meeting about this before you pressed the button. They said that there's, 99% chance that 15 civilians would die, collateral damage. Like that term. It's just crazy, the power of words, because you say a word long enough to mean something enough, and then it dehumanizes or detaches from the reality. It's like when, what are some foods, like when you eat cow, it's called beef. So growing up, you don't know what's a cow, like it's beef.
But like I knew it was a cow.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying you knew it was a cow because you were exposed to that. You probably saw someone slaughter a cow in front of you. But I'm saying to you, in the West, a lot of kids don't know that like a cow.
Well, it's not even it's not even the issue of knowing whether it's a cow or not. It's
whether it's
not
an animal.
not even fathoming the fact that this meat comes from a living breathing being.
Yeah.
And when you think of beef, all you think of like the steaks you see in the shop.
Yeah.
You don't think of the animal that's lived for 20 years before that's given milk on a daily basis, the animal that's plowed the land, the animal that's been the most useful creature, just being slaughtered, like who eats like drinks like 5,000 gallons of water or needs this much land. You don't think of that stuff. You just see the steaks, you see the ribs, you see whatever it is, just frozen there, packaged, ready for you to eat.
Yeah, because I feel like kids are more likely to be horrified by the idea of eating animals.
And that's why language is so important, right? Like, why do you say, we still do? Like, I'm not eating cow. I'm eating pig. Well, I don't even eat that. You don't eat pork. You don't eat pig. They eat pork. You don't eat, like, sheep.
Power in words, man.
Yeah. Lamb maybe is a bit different. Same with chicken, but people don't care about chickens because it's just like another bird. It's similar to an animal that we're already very exposed to.
You want to take a break?
Yeah.
We'll be right back shortly. On a break right now. We're going to take a break on this live one too. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome right back
the
to
second half of the stream. That is
Extreme
Stream. Pod. Guys. Matuse. Can you speak? Please, can you?
That's how we're introducing it from now on. Stream.
Intro. Juicy.
If there was anything more. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. So, wow, whoa. Okay, now we just need you in the studio for the sound effects. We could just keep you as one of them.
You're our human production system. Can I get a chopper? Matuse, get to the chopper!
Whoa.
You can get a horse too.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the X-stream
peacock.
podcast, where we have Noah's Ark with us in the studio. We take that with everybody here.
That was the worst howl I've ever heard. No, it's
Not straight to the mic. It's way too loud for my ears.
Yeah,
all right.
Should
Let's
we
zoom
start
up in
again
here.
properly?
Let's get back to being humans again.
Let's reintroduce.
let's actually have a proper introduction. Welcome back.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the X-stream podcast. We took a quick short break, because some people have animals inside them and need to try to get it out of their system. So we're back on, and I wanted to speak about a couple of things. And since we have Nav as our guest tonight, I think it'd be cool to get his opinion on some stuff, and we can just discuss some things going on in the world as it is today. So the world as it is today, I heard that this lady, I read that this lady, she wanted to do this thing called the chocolate challenge, and you paint yourself like you paint half of your body black, and you kind of, I'm not sure what her take was, but you kind of like dress up that side. It's just blatant racism. She said she went and did it. She went onto YouTube and Twitter and Instagram. It's like, it's a new challenge. Everyone should do it, etc. Until somebody a group of people called her out on it, and we're like, well, I mean, it's blatantly racist and it's blackface. And for anyone who doesn't know what blackface is, historically, it was the usage of white actors painting their faces black and over-characterizing stereotypical and racist concepts of what it is to be a black person. So they overdid everything. And anyways, it was done for so long, and its effects were drastic. And so anyone, going ahead and painting their face black and thinking it's okay when there's such a history to it. It was just interesting because she pulled off Instagram and off Twitter and everything.
Deleted all her accounts.
Everything. Because, and I believe it, that she didn't know.
She
That somebody
didn't know.
genuinely had
What's
no
her name?
idea.
Like Vika Shahal or something? She's
Cheval.
Western European.
Yeah, I think she was an American?
No,
She was an American. Because if she was American and didn't know, I'd be like, come on now. You know better. But I mean, that's the world we live in today. What you think about that, Bucky?
Sounds like an idiot to me.
Right.
We got 3 people of
It's
color
just- I
in
know,
this
like,
room right now.
This week on dumbasses from America saying things that they think is right, but is just racist
So
because
just
they're
Trump
a country
highlights, basically.
of racists.
Trump highlights, right. Hey, I mean, apparently she's not from America, so, world over. But that was interesting. Another thing, what?
No, going back on what Buckety said, it's just, yeah, she's not American, but
Yeah, I know. A lot of people that's American culture that's like that. It's
No,
like
but
it's
I
European.
didn't-
It's like
Well,
it's Anglo-Saxon culture. It's
that's
colonialism.
it. That's it. I mean, you're talking about the after effects of a continent of people that benefited on the backs of the rest of the world, right? Yeah. And in many ways, even if we're talking about imperialism, post-imperialism, we're talking about imperialistic America, at the end of the day, its very genesis stemmed from Europe,
Right.
And these kind of attitudes, these mentalities, these blackface trends, if you will, the minstrelsy that's what it is. The entire institution of minstrelsy is a very Western European centric or Eurocentric view of the world, in that white is superior, fair skinned is superior, blue eyes, blonde hair is superior. Yeah. That's not necessarily something that started from America. No, America, we had the native and indigenous peoples, right? They didn't have that. It was brought by Western culture. It was brought by the Europeans. So the Europeans inherently should bear the onus of guilt and responsibility for those actions. And I don't care if it's just American people who are aware of it. Europeans should be all the more aware of it too.
I think they definitely should be aware of something like that.
Of course.
So another thing that hit the news waves was the 13-year-old young man in England, I think it was. It was in England, who died from eating cheese. And this is close to my heart because I'm lactose intolerant, and I've had lactose by accident before in a large amount.
You nearly died.
Bruh, I went blind, literally. Severe fever, severe sickness. It's real talk. So this kid, he didn't accidentally eat a cheese sandwich. He was very clear about his, what's the word I'm looking for?
Intolerance?
Yeah, he's intolerant. So it wasn't just cheese, gluten. There was a bunch of other ones.
Yeah.
It's serious. Some serious stuff. So he's student, like the rest of the students knew about this, and apparently it's not ruled out that it might be treated as an attempted murder by a fellow student
at school.
Yeah,
like
because they held him down.
Cheese.
They held him down and they force fed him the cheese,
wow.
knowing
horrific.
well indeed what it would do to him.
This is like food bullying.
No, that's clearly
murder.
it is food bullying.
They knew they were killing
That'd
be like giving a kid peanuts, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Someone, oh my God, can you
So
imagine
the
that? Just throwing
investigation,
peanuts at a kid.
yeah, that's exactly what it is. So the investigation has shown that the kid was being bullied with food. Crazy, bullied with food.
Is that a first world problem or is that a first world problem?
Bullied with food? Yeah.
I mean, it probably
is,
happens in
but
different ways in the third world.
Like without the context, it sounds
Yeah,
like
I have food.
yeah.
I mean, it's a tragedy at the end of the day. I'm not trying to make fun of it or
Yeah, I know.
undermine the real experience
But
of
it's
kids and his
tragedy.
families. But like, damn, like
Just
wow.
the saying in itself, bullied with food sounds
bullied
very
with
first
food
world.
just sounds wow. But yeah, that's so insidious, isn't it? Like holding down a kid.
So some say that
And
they
force
threw it,
feeding-
but even if you threw it, you throwing something like that at a kid you know well indeed that he has an allergy, a severe allergy. So I mean, my question, why I brought this up, hear your takes on this, is, do you think that this is a attempted murder? Like,
I don't know enough
listen,
about it.
forget the story. I'm not going to implicate the people in the story. Let's just take it as an example.
As a situation, if
As a-
someone force feeds someone.
So let's say one kid,
Something
let's
they're
say one
allergic to.
13-year-old, one 13-year-old gets a couple of other 13-year-olds to hold down a kid they all know is severely allergic to cheese, and then they force feed him
Yeah,
the
that sounds
cheese.
like murder to me.
And then the kid dies
Like those
10
kids
days later.
13-year-old kids.
Then throw away the key.
13-year-old kids.
Yeah.
I like to believe.
Hold on, before you say it, Buckley, is that where you're standing?
Yeah, chuck them in the den,
Abubakr,
throw away the key.
throw them in the cell and
Yeah.
chuck away the key.
Yeah,
In
those
juvie.
kids not gonna have a future.
Wow.
If they're white, they probably will. But if they're not, they're not.
Ooh, shots fired. All right, Nav, what's your take?
Oh man, bullying is always going to occur, right? It doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter if you're in kindergarten. It doesn't matter if you're in like last year university.
Yes.
It doesn't matter in the
justify it.
workplace. I'm not saying it's justified. I'm not justifying the actions.
I know.
I'm saying bullying is always going to occur. But I think the other thing you might have to take into consideration, bullying at the age of 13. I mean, yes, you intend to harm, you intend to demean, and you intend to make someone feel like shit. But do you intend to kill?
Yeah.
Is that something we can assume of these kids? Like we can just assume that yes, they intend
I
to
guess
kill him?
manslaughter.
Uh,
They knew
that-
this
that's
kid
why
was
I
gonna
didn't
die.
say. I didn't say homicide. I said
Yeah.
manslaughter. Well, they said manslaughter, but I'm saying
But
in our
would they
hypothetical.
would they even have been aware? I don't like to think that a group.
What
of,
do you think they? How do you think?
I think they
perceived
maybe
it?
just wanted to really terrorize him, like really bully the shit out of him. As I
good
said, like
choice of
that,
words,
that
terrorize.
happens, right? Yeah,
Bullying.
terrorize. This is when terrorize should be used. All right, that's what I feel that they were probably trying to do. Did they have the
Some
intent?
random person will
did
like look up the dictionary term.
They're
for terror
13
and be
years
like,
old, right?
says here that there has to be like a political agenda.
They're idiots. They're 13 years old. They don't know. Like, I mean, they're aware that he's allergic, but did they actually understand the gravitas of his intolerance? Like that, did they know that he was actually going to die? I like to believe that there's stupid 13-year-old kids who are just bullying kids, as always happens. It went too far, but they never had the intention of actually killing this kid.
I don't know, man.
I think that's a difficult
happened
call
before.
to make. I mean,
It's happened before. There've been like kids that have like kidnapped someone, tortured, sodomized,
Yeah.
and then murdered.
it's
That
happened.
happens. What's the
Definitely like
difference
that
between
kid in
these
the
kids
UK.
and those kids?
All right,
How
yeah.
do you even know?
I'm not saying they shouldn't be held responsible for their actions. They're entirely accountable.
So
for
then,
their
what
death.
does it mean to be held responsible in this case?
Well, I
So
mean,
what's-
they'd have to bear the punishment, which is what Bakri was saying.
What's the punishment?
Well, in this
up,
case,
throw
they'd
away
be
the key.
charged for manslaughter, wouldn't they?
So you would see this as a
Yeah,
manslaughter?
it is.
charge?
It is from a law and / technical perspective. It's manslaughter. Did they have the intent to
Slaughter,
kill?
man.
However, maybe not. Do you
That
have
doesn't make
the
it
intent
better.
to kill? It doesn't make it better. Not
Yeah.
at all.
No,
Doesn't make it
yeah,
better.
You need to have the intent to kill for it to be murder.
To be murder, exactly. So
Alright.
I don't think they had the intent to kill. But what happened?
What do they
was
call that? They call that mens rea.
mens rea. What's
Yeah.
that?
the
Mens
intent
rea.
to
It's
kill.
the intent to kill in a
Yeah.
murder. You have to have mens rea, and what's the other? There's something else. So the action and the intention. But the thing about it is the intent there was to harm.
Was to harm.
The
Yeah.
intent there was to hurt. The intent
Yeah,
there
don't
was to.
undermine that.
You,
Yeah.
and you like, they know that that's what's gonna happen to this kid. This kid's something is gonna happen to him. He's gonna get sick. So it's okay to get sick. So it's okay to be sick. That's acceptable. Like, I mean, it's really like attempted murder is a big call, but the kid died.
Yeah.
And that's unfair. Like, I mean, the family's got to bear that brunt. And I mean, you know, if anything, bullyism, I'm gonna make it an ism. Bullyism is a real thing. It's serious. And it doesn't just end in high school. A lot of times that transfers. Bullyism can transfer into domestic abuse. Bullyism can transfer into being a bully in your workforce, like where you work at.
It's transgenerational. It can be carried on to your children.
Yeah.
You know, these bullying in their most formative years of development are going to shape and mold the way you behave and react to things.
That's right. So if bullying is so deep, then shouldn't it be treated in a serious way? on a grand scale, not just in schools, because schools can only do so much. But like, I mean, like, I don't know. It's just interesting. Kid dies from cheese, and he wasn't just accidentally eating cheese. He was forced to eat cheese. Like, it's really messed up.
It's really messed up.
It's like just killing a kid while you're bullying them. Like,
It's fucked up.
I just don't think a kid dying during being bullied should be excused because they didn't know. Because you know what? You know you're bullying. And just because you don't know that you're killing. You're fine morally and ethically to take it to that point. Which then raises the question as to why are they bullying? And why this kid died because of that.
And why people find pleasure in hurting others.
Schadenfreude, right?
To what extent? Even
Schadenfreude. That's it, Schadenfreude. It's the joy you get from causing harm to another person.
Or watching other
Schadenfreude.
people
Or
being harmed.
watching or people experience.
It's because it's hey, it's not me, and hey, if it's not me, it's someone else. You know, it's like a misery loves company. It is a question. Like it's a serious.
But yeah, because say hypothetically, those kids didn't intend to murder; they intended to just severely harm. Why did they stop at harm? Like, why did they say, "Oh no, this isn't enough pain that we want to cause. Anything beyond that is too much."
Mm-hmm.
Like, where's the measure? Where's the accountability? Where does
Yeah,
I
there's
assume
another-
that this tragedy wouldn't have happened in isolation. It would have been the build-up of previous
Oh,
accounts of bullying,
yeah.
and every time that threshold you're talking about would have been pushed
pushed
that
pushed
little bit
and
more,
pushed
and that was just pushed too far.
Yep. Yeah. And if he didn't die then I'm sure there's a good chance it wouldn't have stopped there. So it's
This kind of shit leads to suicide. He would have died in another way.
yeah, and so because of that, I always think, well, I mean, that's a genuine form of terrorism.
Which is why I used the word.
Yeah. That's why I said it's a great choice of that word
yeah, it's
because
like a domestic terrorism.
it is domestic
100%.
terrorism. I mean, you're like for this kid and for his family, they are being like. Here's the thing for me: is terrorism is that term only used because there's a grand scale of it, or is it sufficient enough to say one? Because if one person dies in an attack, they'll use the word terrorist, regardless of how many die. But then the question beckons: then okay, in a case where only one person was targeted. See, multiple people will get targeted in terrorist, quote-unquote terrorist attacks. One or two people die, some people are injured.
Yeah, is it a murder or is it a terroristic murder?
Yeah, so I mean, for me,
Yeah.
terrorism
Is the
by
assassination of a
terminology.
president just murder or is it terrorism?
I mean, terrorism is like by definition to incite fear in order to achieve a goal out of it. And if you're inciting fear into a kid because your goal is to seem cooler or better than him, or so you're dealing with whatever, that's terrorism for that kid. He's terrified coming to school. He's terrified dealing with that on a regular basis. And now you've left those scars on his family. So it's like, we were speaking before about how words have such a power. And what's interesting is the term abracadabra. Does anyone know where that term comes from? It's a Hebrew term, abracadabra, and it means I give my words power. Or something like that. It's not verbatim. Yeah.
Wow.
and the idea, that's why they use it in spells. Now think about spells, you know, casting a spell,
Yeah, you get
spelling,
this magical
because
power.
it's words.
Yeah.
Because it's really what it signified and what it's meant to
Oh, is that the
signify.
actual etymology?
Yeah,
of
yeah,
that,
of
or we just
course.
make that up?
No,
Okay,
I mean,
cool.
think about it. Like, the whole concept of words is that words do have power. So if you're
course.
sitting there and you're calling yourself an idiot, you're eventually going to believe it. Like, you're bringing that energy to you on a metaphysical level. But words have power to affect. And I always, when people think this is airy-fairy stuff, I always bring it back to that Japanese scientist who did that test on water drops, where he spoke and different things to the water drops. He had probably 30 different water drop samples. He said different things every day to them. So one, he might say, I love you every day. Another one, he might play some rock music. Another one, he played the Quran. Another one, he played just different things. And each one of them was affected.
The chalcedony of the molecules actually
Was
took on different
affected,
shapes
yeah.
based on the.
And if we're made up of 70-80% water, then words are on a scientific standard are gonna have an effect
Bruh,
on us.
you moved the liquids inside me with some of your words.
And for real, the liquids were moved inside of you. But that's the thing. That's the power of word, which is
Bakri talking about bodily fluids and
Hey,
shit.
I can use words. I'm savvy.
No, 100% right, Matuse. But taking it back to words, that other article that came out earlier this week, wasn't it, with BBC?
What's that?
It basically confirmed everything that I think every Muslim or even person of color around the world already knows. That
Oh,
when
right.
you ascribe the word terrorist to a Muslim target, it gets 5 times the readership or viewership.
Yeah. It was. I think it was. Was it 5? Yeah, 5 times more. So for any attack that is claimed or alleged to be by a Muslim, the media will cover it 5 times more, give it 5 times more press than any attack of the same caliber or higher.
Or less even.
Yeah, I mean, or less. But I'm saying like any attack could be a worse attack, but they'll cover it 5 times less, which is crazy because it comes, I guess, right back down to words, and with words being spoken. So what we watch and what we take in from the media and stuff like that has a real effect on people. Over time, it's a gradual effect. That's how historically they've been able to ever try to convince any large group of people anything illogical and insane or racist and bigoted that led to genocides or holocausts or wars, mass murders. I mean, we think these people were evil. They weren't evil. They were just convinced over a good period of time of a lie that's substantiated via the power of words.
I had a really extensive conversation with Imam Zaid from
Imam
America.
Zaid Shakir. He's an amazing
incredible
scholar. Yeah.
When he was here in Sydney a couple of years ago, and we were this is the advent of ISIS, right? So we're talking like 2013, 2014 when we came here, I think. And I was talking about that, like I was telling him, like, obviously there's so many acts of terrorism and war out there, but it's such a battle, it's such a war of words. And he was asking me, he's like, all right, you got to slow down, you got to tell me what you're talking about. I said, let's take the word jihad. Jihad, as Muslims here, we're all Muslims here in this room.
Yep.
Jihad is a word that we have relinquished to everyone, right? Jihad has become such a one-dimensional definition ascribed by a certain religious or political sway of thought that has conditioned people to think of just one thing and one definition for that word.
And what's that one definition?
Holy war on a physical level, right? But we all know as Muslims that jihad means so much more than that.
Way more than that. In
that.
fact, when you look at as a Muslim as a Muslim living every day, the word jihad, meaning holy war, is the most irrelevant version of that word for your life, because you don't ever the
it's
physical.
More like spiritual battle.
Well, jihad means struggle.
It's the struggle.
It literally means struggle. Its etymology is to struggle and strive for good. Like, its etymology is that.
100%. And this is how I was saying this emptiness, this barrenness of words reflects the barrenness of humanity. And how I was trying to say was when you give up the definition of a word that carries so much substance, so much gravitas, so much beautiful inflection of meaning, when you give up and relinquish that, it needs to be filled by something. All right. And when it's filled by that rhetoric of jihad only being dying, martyring oneself, acts of terrorism in the name of religious justice or whatever they want to call it or justify it as, you fill that meaning, you fill that void with something that's completely wrong and completely unbiased and something that can completely influence the masses. And it's reflected in humanity. When you look at Iraq, when you look at the Middle East, when you look at these places where ISIS infiltrated, right? They had the meanings of those people. The people who lived in those areas were removed by external forces, by the West, by the Balfour Agreements, by the US, by the invasions that were completely unjustified. What were you left with? You were left with a vacuum of humanity, which had to be filled with a vacuum of a certain meaning that completely destroyed humanity. ISIS. And it's how you can reflect the power of language, all right? And having a vacuum of understanding to be filled with something insidious can be reflected in how it's resulted in the world with a vacuum of humanity, a vacuum of humans that needed to be filled by something insidious.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Imam Zaid, and he was just like
snapping the fingers.
He was just like, wow, it's so true. And I said, you can sit there and you can say ISIS is a battle with guns and soldiers, but I'm telling you, my friends, it's a war of words.
It's a war of words.
It's 100%
everything
a war of
is
words.
a war of words and images.
It's words and images.
I mean, images say a different story without the words a lot of the time. So it is a war of words first and foremost. But history is a testament to it being a war of words, because history is his story. And whose story? Well, the victor's story.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying?
dropped that line before.
Have I?
Yeah.
I've told you that
You
before?
dropped that
But
same
why
line.
not? It's always relevant.
It's always relevant. Yeah, I'm proud of myself. If you're saying I have, then I said it slick the first time, I said it slick the second time. I'm doing well with it. Because it is, I mean, I'm not even the first one to have said that.
Yeah.
So I won't take credit for it, but history is his story. And his story is I mean,
History is written by the victors.
Written by the victors.
Yeah.
And
Unfortunately, it's not us in this case.
Well, why can't it be? We're the
Alright.
writers of today.
I feel like every writer's a historian, so it's
Well, I mean, we're now living in an age of where people can write, and they can write publicly, and they
Of
can
course.
release their writing
This
publicly.
is the
Speaking of
proliferation
writing
of
and
profligate
reading-
promulgation. That's the 3 Ps. That's what I call it. Proliferation of profligate promulgation. We
Okay.
live in a world where if we type
Guys,
anything,
get the books out again.
Yeah.
Let's go. Three.
we live in a
Cheers.
world.
of what?
Hold on,
The
hold on.
proliferation
Proliferation. First
of
word.
profligate
Of
Of
profligate.
profligate
promulgation.
promulgation.
So proliferation means, we're talking about the multiplicity of things being expanding,
yeah.
right?
I want you to freestyle from that.
Profligate. We're talking about the fact that if something is profligate, it's giving a very I guess you could say like a bad impression of something. Like it's something that's bad. Something that's profligate is bad, and it doesn't necessarily need sources to verify it. All right. And
Right.
promulgation means
You promote it.
instantaneous publishing. Right. We live in social media. That is our life.
We're promulgating right now.
We're promulgating right now. We're just hoping that we're not proliferating the profligate type of promulgation.
All right.
Right? But we live in a
Proliferate,
world
not
exactly
proliferation.
on social media where the blank face of anonymity allows people to be rude and mean and insidious without taking any accountability for it. The moment you type those keys and hit enter on your keyboard, you are automatically promulgated. You are published. You are on the record. Even if it's deleted, you'd be stupid to think anything gets deleted from the internet, right? There are records. Your IP servers have records of everything you've posted and deleted. The
Lord have
agencies
mercy.
exactly. The agents have, and this is what I was talking about. Are we being as reckless as our forefathers? Because if you sit there and think you don't have a footprint of data, even when you post something and delete it, that Vikas Shahal who posted the
Yeah, she deleted that.
she deleted it,
didn't
but
make a
we saw it
difference.
everywhere, didn't we?
That is
And
so
and
true,
we didn't even
man.
have to. We didn't even need
Crazy.
hackers for that,
Ladies
right?
and gentlemen,
Someone
put on your tinfoil hat.
someone just had to screenshot it on a phone, and it stayed. It's a meme. It's in memory. It's there. It doesn't matter.
Forever.
Everything we put online is automatically published, and it is too easy to be insidious and profligate in what you put out there. This is the world. This is the world we live in. It's fucked.
To sum it up,
It's fucked.
no, I mean, but you've made a very good point about the fact that I, first and foremost, and then we, and then everyone, needs to be very careful what they post.
100%.
Thinking that you can delete what you post, but it's like
I've been in
nah,
trouble
man.
for what I posted before.
I bet you have, Bakri. I mean, you've been in trouble in all kinds of ways, Mr. Bakr. But I would just like to think, wow, we are leaving a print. Each and
Everything we
every
do.
one of us is leaving a print.
Well, we've
Every
been doing
video
it our
that we
entire
post
life.
up is a print, so they can check this later and they can see this. This is
It's just like in the real world, and that's what I was trying to say in my book. Every time you breathe, you're taking in oxygen, breathing out carbon dioxide. You're leaving literally a carbon footprint, all right? You do the same thing in the cyberspace. Every little interaction you make with the cyberspace, just as we make an interaction with breathing, you make an interaction with hitting the enter button. Every interaction leaves its footprint on the cyber world,
Yeah,
which
right.
can be retrieved, picked up, exploited, used, manipulated, twisted, whatever it is. It can all be gathered, analyzed, and used.
so. It's like when our parents would show us pictures of their grandparents, and it was like a picture that survived some war, and it's black and white and tore up, and there was one picture of them when they were in their 30s.
And they managed to preserve that.
And they managed to preserve that. But now you're looking at our lives and you're thinking, well, we're going to have so much preservation. Somebody dies and you need something to show at their funeral. It's like, well, just go
Look
onto
at
their
their
Facebook. Let's go through all of their stuff.
Put it on slideshow.
Yeah, we got videos of them. We know their life story, man.
100%.
At least up to 90. Like, when did Facebook come about? 90. Was it in the 2000s?
2005?
Yeah, 2004 the first. The
2004.
Facebook came out in 2004.
The Facebook, 2004, yeah. I think I signed on in 2007 at uni because all the uni kids were signed on to it just to share their shit. So I didn't even really start using it till I think about 2011, to be honest, properly.
Yeah.
Maybe 2010, 2011.
I think I was on it pretty early. But I don't know. So, what else has been happening in the news?
Do you guys want to rap?
You mean like with an R or with a W?
With an R.
They both got R's.
Touche. The one without the W or the one with... Oh, you like as in rap? You want to
Yeah.
rap?
Yeah.
You just want
And
us to rap.
Yeah, I want
You
to
just want
freestyle.
Well, I
Matuse
mean,
to rap.
I
can't
saw
rap.
you do
You
a
can read
I can't
twirl.
poetry.
rap.
I saw you do a twirl with your finger, and that to me is like, wrap it up, B.
Yeah, we
Wrap
should do
it up.
that
Yeah,
also
that's-
after the rap.
All right, we're going to finish
That
with
means
a rap.
No,
Yeah.
you rap.
Because that
I'm not
time is
rapping.
running out.
I got
Yeah, and-
poetry.
I mean, you
and
got
shit,
poetry
but
to
do you want to read the
spit.
poetry? You're a
Yeah.
I
guest.
can't spit poetry.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
you
you
got
got
poetry
something
to
written. I'll read
speak.
poetry with you if you read poetry.
I wonder if I can do. I've always actually wanted to do stuff. To
Do you
a
have
beat.
any like 2-part poetry that we could read together.
That's
Maybe,
like the gayest
line
and
by
most
line.
beautiful thing you've ever said to me.
Bang bang.
I love it.
So you can catch us. I mean,
Where does this get
You
posted?
can catch us every
Tell
night.
me so I don't share it with
You can
people.
call me personally.
Well, I mean, we're obviously
Chat with you.
on
Personally.
Facebook, but the pod
Personally.
will be
Sorry.
we have our own podcast.
Nigerian hip hop, bro.
Information coming soon.
You love us. We love
Mark,
you.
did you have that information on deck yet for us?
Yeah, I got the information. I'm the man with the info.
You want to share that information?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, what was the point of saying that, Bucky?
I'm the man with the info. You ain't nothing but a mofo.
Info will be on the link below.
Oh, there we go. Matuse is just shaking his head. He's like, what?
All right, Bucky.
All right, how about we lay out a beat for you? You do some freestyle.
Okay, let's. Oh, you guys actually gonna? Oh, they're dropping the beat. Back at it, rap addict causing all of the havoc. Let them know that I'm spitting flows always above the average. Never stopping at all. Scheming for cheddar dough. They better know the flow. Be ready to get some more. I put a hole in their chest like the letter B. Better be ready for me. If not, you're readily armed and heavily. But spitting the flow, let it be. One of the illest, spit the realest. But you come and see. Currently, I'm scheming for currency. No, when they might just stop and drop and then exchange. Rearrange the frame. Never did it for fame. But I'm hoping that they open in the open saying my name. I am MTUSC. Came with the peace. Came with the rhymes. Came with the beats. Came with the flow. Let them notice what it be. See, whenever I leave, or my trees say my piece. Now you know what the poet heroic flowing. Deeply devoted, hoping they open to peep the opus. Now that they notice, this is the reason. Deep as the ocean. Now that I'm spitting flows, and you know that I be coasting.
Oh.
Let me go in. Let me go in. Let's get that spoken word, huh?
Man, I don't know if I can do spoken word to
Boom.
beats.
You don't need to. Don't rhyme it. Just say it. Just say it.
Well, my spoken poetry is always rhymes, whereas like my written poetry doesn't.
Oh, I mean, give it to us.
I don't know. I
We're
wonder if
just-
I could do this to a beat.
We're just gonna.
Yeah,
Click.
we'll go.
Click.
We'll start to hear you and then we'll make the beat.
All right. Because I'm still trying to make peace with the bees. The same ones who keep buzzing on about being free. The ones who are too bothered about being the bee's knees. They forgot about the bee's needs. Remain deaf to the bee's pleas. About the bee being too fatigued. Detrimental to health, the bee's hospital fees. Add to the unpaid debt of the bee's college degrees. To pay doctors trained from the bee's university that claim educational magnanimity. In a blind indentured society, enslaved to the feigned reign of an expired queen's monarchy, but in fact still costs the bee an arm and well a knee.
All right.
Keep it going. Keep it going.
Legless they roam with wings pinned back, wings they had never even known. This is the hive mind mentality of the unwilling drone. So why do you feel as though you can relate? Serving to the interwebs, unable to escape. For once again, you were tired at work till 8. Now abide, tired, bored, and unbothered to stagnate. You find yourself prey to the mass debate, at which of the millions of 30-minute videos you watch for about 30 seconds as you self-satiate.
Satiate.
I don't even know if this is going anywhere.
Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Give it to us. Give it to us. This is live.
Let's try without a beat,
This is
and
the
then
real
you put a
experience
beat
of
on
what it's
top.
like to be on the underground rhythmic with your people.
Because I just...
Buckley went somewhere else right now.
his beats just went somewhere. I'm like trying to stick to it, but I don't think it's really working.
All right, we're gonna let you finish the final piece.
All right, let's. I
Without-
don't know. This is an old piece I've done ages before. It's called Bees, but like, I mean, I think there's a couple of lines here that kind of
Yeah, bring it. But tell us.
it
about
kind
the
of
final
goes
line.
on what we were sort of talking about.
All right, hit
So
it.
the world's economies bank on bankruptcy to make plans for fiscal's gain by taking on dismal debts in vain, only to publicly share their burden, sell short on their future earning, to turn to corporate powers who market their greed without a shame by offering us self-fulfilling prophecies sold by self-proclaimed Pharisees whose lives renew annually as their products die constantly to make way for next year's brand new commodity, which developed the technology that certainly transcended expectedly but still suffers from shorter-lived batteries. Impermanence has defined this world of taking, consuming, and self-gratifying. If anything, we could learn from the bees, whose careful expertise produces the last and only consumable item that may actually last for an eternity.
Honey?
Truly, honey is a wonder of the ages. The original ambrosia, the nectar of the gods, the wine of the pauper and the pope alike, yet the
Goes
one thing that
great
can
on
cause
toast.
honey to spoil is the very essence of life. Water.
Water.
And it keeps going.
Keep going. Shh, Bucky,
thanks
let the man read.
Yeah, but water.
And thanks to our own atmosphere factory founding, we may witness our own oceans drowning. As we sit back and read about it, feign dismay on small screens and hit like or hashtag to disavow it, but nonetheless indignantly still allow it. And strange as it may seem, but these angry waters, when mixed with oil, make campfires that keep our democratically elected liars warm in the twilight hours within the tallest towers, constructed from the sands of deserted powers. What wells were these? They brought not life in essence, but greed, ostentation, and excess, mined from deserts that bore fruits whose seeds grew nations but germinated war, as economic powers beat their chests and political spheres squared up to institutional roar, claiming to serve the people, but all the while exploiting the poor, and taking for granted that the masses won't hear their call to sting the backside of the media's disingenuous furor, as sweatshop buildings collapse in Bangladesh and drowned babies wash up on Turkish beach resorts. But alas, he was well fed and well dressed, so apparently it was his parents' greed for a European lie that saw him dead, or so that little Eurosceptic politicians said.
Wow.
Outraged or not, what were you doing when all was said and done? Catching up on The Bachelor, or which MasterChef competitor was sent home? Deciding on which new celebrity sex tape to download? Googling which of the latest over-sexualized music videos apparently support the feminists to and fro? Watching another first world house being renovated without its owners even needing to know? Checking up on which real housewife called another a hoe? Or listening to those lost and stupid souls on another stupid, mindless talent show? When will you all realize that as you make time to watch their lives, you're only wasting your own? It's a long poem. It keeps going on and on.
Wow.
But yeah.
No, I wanted to stop there because I
Yeah,
felt
of
like
course.
that was a good spot
It's a
to
good
stop.
stuff. A good place
Wow.
to end.
That was terrific. That was beautiful.
Yo, Nav.
I can
Wow.
feel that inside me.
That's the way I wanted
it
to
get your
end.
fluids
right
going?
there. Yeah. He's
You
all
removed my heart and soul.
dissipated and she's
I'm all liquefied.
all liquefied.
Liquidation stock on Bakri right now.
Yeah, you can
Nah,
have it all.
Buy those assets up.
We really appreciate you coming and being our guest for
I've-
tonight's
I've
episode.
loved being here. Thank you so much.
Can you
Mad
give us
fun.
can you give us a little just a bit of information how people can locate your
Because
poetry?
they can't reach us.
We're so hard to read, so they might be.
Hard,
You gotta
hard,
bet.
hard,
You gotta
hard.
bet.
Two. Reach. Where?
Stream.
Live stream. Podcast, cast. Me, man, like, honestly, like, I have a Facebook page that I never update. You can check it out. It's called Nav K Samir. You can hit me up on Facebook, Naveen Krishnasamy. I do have a bit of a blog. It's on Tumblr. I know. I just write shit and I post it
What's
there.
that called?
That's okay.
It's called Smitten by Words. You can
I'm
always
gonna let
type
anyone
in.
know that you're a 16-year-old girl.
You can always type in Smitten by Words and you can find my poems that have been published. You can find poems that I've got on an old blog. You can find poems on my Facebook. And on Instagram, I'm NavK Samir. So NavK Samir.
Nice.
I put up a lot of my photography, things that I've taken around the world. I usually write little sort of written poetry for each sort of picture that I've put up. And also on my blog, like, there's old essays and there's old short stories of, like, figures of history. And there's a few excerpts from the book I'm writing. Yeah, so it's all up there. It's online.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Props to you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you
I
for
appreciate
coming.
it. Thank you for having me.
This is the end of our second episode of Extreme Podcast Radio. I am your co-host, Matuse Peace. You can find me on Instagram at Matuse_Peace. Or is it Matuse.Peace? No, Matuse_Peace would be fine. And you can pretty much type that into anywhere, including iTunes, and you'll find a bunch of stuff about me, about my music, about my art. I have an exhibit coming up August the 15th. If you are in the Sydney location, then do come down to the Bankstown Art Center August the 15th, 6:30 p.m. to check out the exhibit. This is the second episode of Extreme Podcast Radio. I'm going to let Abubakr close off for us.
Yeah, you can probably get me on Snapchat and Insta on Bakri too. And on Twitter at Abubakr Mahmoud. If you can't spell that, that's your problem and you need to get cultured. You ignorant swine. However, you could also, if you'd love to meet me in person and have a chat and we can talk, you should come to my poetry on the 20th of this month. The theme is The Boys. The link will be below. But yeah, hit me up on Insta, on Facebook, and I don't really care if I hear from you or not. But have a good time.
If you guys have anything you want us to talk about in future segments, please let us know. Send us, you can leave a comment in the comment section or send us an email or reach out to us on our individual pages.
Yeah, actually, we want you to reach out to us.
Yeah, thanks. I'm not sure about Bakri, but certainly we do.
But we certainly do.
Hey, it's not even your show. You're just a guest.
I know. Extreme. Podcast. Radio.
And that sums it about up for us tonight on Extreme.
Much love.
Peace and blessings, yo.
Peace to everyone.